Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of A Pro's Guide to Dominion. Today we will be talking about external guarding. That is an act of blocking, dodging or parrying an external opponent's attacks. It is done by locking onto a less threatening opponent, either because of the character or distance, in order to make defending easier. For example, you're playing Dominion and you find yourself in a 1v2 against an Orochi and a Shugoki. Now, it doesn't matter if you're on PC or console, Orochi is hard to block. So, who do you lock onto? Well, you lock onto the Shugoki and you keep your guard in the direction of the Orochi. Another situation, there's a peacekeeper right next to you and there is someone who you can lock onto on the other side of the fight or running away. Well, to avoid the trouble of having to block a peacekeeper, especially if you're low on health, you can just lock onto the other person and put your block on the side of the assassin. So, I think you probably understand the basic concept of what the video is about, but before I start showing gameplay and delving deeper into the topic, I would like to tell you guys why I chose this for the first episode. I think defense is an extremely important aspect of For Honor that doesn't get talked about enough, and external guarding is the basis for it in 4v4. Knowing how to do this alone will make you a vastly superior player and should net you a higher win rate if mastered. In competitive games, either scrims or tournaments, one of the easiest ways for me to tell whether a player is good or not is to see if he blocks random attacks thrown at him by people he isn't looking at. So strap in and let's start. Okay, so now we're in a custom game and it's time for me to show you how this all works. First of all, you can lock onto another player who's far away to avoid having to react to the quicker character next to you. Here, this is shown very simply, but in a real game this will probably happen with a person on the other side of the fight. There will be a lot more opponents nearby, so be careful. This can also be counterplayed by the peacekeeper, who can position herself in between you and the enemy you're locking onto in order to confuse your indicators. In this case, you'd want to lock back onto the PK or just try to dash away so she cannot try to switch sides with her attacks. Again, be careful with this one. Here's a simple situation. There's a raider and a peacekeeper in front of you. What do? You choose the least threatening target, in this case the raider. You put your guard in the direction of the PK, in this case right, and you react to anything the two characters are throwing out. This is very strong as many characters rely on basic attacks without blockables or bashes. Make sure to practice this one as it's extremely important and used in every competitive match. Next up are invisible indicators. This is a pretty big one, most probably quite a large source of your frustrations, so let's get it out of the way. If neither one of you is locked onto each other, you will not see any indicators. Unfortunately, there is no simple trick here and you will have to rely on good eye for animation and good positioning not to be in this spot. But of course this will happen in the game, there is no way around that, so what are some of the things that you can do? Anytime you see a big attack coming your way, and you're seeing no indicator, meaning you will not be able to parry it, just do something. Block if that's possible, dodge, roll, this one's often the best. Depending on the character, maybe blade blockade, full block if it's a slow enough attack, hidden stance. But, as you will see in a moment, unblockable attacks behave this way too. Well, then dodging and rolling are your only options left, assuming it's impossible for you to interrupt it. Most likely the most consistent and simple sounding, but in reality very difficult piece of advice I can give you, is to position yourself in such a way that you are never in between many players, and try your hardest to have the most amount of vision possible in a fight, so that these types of attacks won't catch you off guard. Now, disappearing indicators. While this may seem similar to the previous segment of the video, it is not. The way the indicator system works is it tries to help you by showing which attack will come first if there's more than one coming your way. This, however, can result in the indicators disappearing, which is especially annoying with unblockables. As you're seeing on the screen, a feinted attack or a quicker one thrown after a slower one is started can be really confusing and is undoubtedly a source of many of your deaths. Here, there's yet again no easy way out, but the good news is, you parry one of the attacks thrown at you, you parry them all. Parrying can be extremely difficult in this situation, and it's often better to simply dodge or roll away, especially if there's an unblockable coming. Knowing how to deal with this will keep you alive a lot longer in some of the fights. Tell me how many times this has happened to you. You're low, maybe slightly below 1 bar, and you're locking onto someone in a teamfight. You're trying to stay relatively safe while your teammates fight it out. Maybe you're close to revenge, and a PK or a shaman throw a dash attack that switches sides and you die. It can be very frustrating. However, there is a trick here that you can use. You can always parry in the direction of the original attack, that is the direction of the attack as it appears when you're locked onto that character. So that means if a PK does a forward dash attack, it doesn't matter which direction it appears to be coming from, you can always parry and block top. Just look at my guard in these clips. This is relatively small compared to the other aspects of defense I've talked about thus far, because it can be difficult to apply, but it can be situationally useful, especially against characters like PK. Last thing in this part of the video is very small, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew about this. If the attack is not locked onto you and you try to pop revenge, it will activate, but it will not auto parry the attack, so be careful not to get your revenge activation baited. So now I will go over some clips that I've prepared. I will start with the bad ones, showing you what not to do and some negative outcomes of trying to apply the concepts presented in the previous section. First up are 2 clips of me being very bad at the game. These are random scrims and I want to show you what happens when you're not focused on the match. I started okay in the first clip, block some attacks for a bit and then I completely melt in seconds. You will never see deaths like these in tournaments because players are always on 100% focus and they're able to accordingly react to Highlander second heavies. Similar with the second clip. It's simply me not reacting in time after positioning very poorly. Throughout this video, you will find that positioning is very important when it comes to external guarding. This is a very typical example of what I would like to help you guys with today. Skies is playing a hero with a very short reflex guard, but I think we can help here anyway. So the first issue we can immediately notice is that Iceca seems to be looking at animations only and getting distracted too much by the exclamation marks. He does not look at the indicators. And while the indicators can definitely lie to you sometimes, here he is missing blocks on the opponent he's locked onto, while failing at defending the others as well. This is not an easy situation, but let's try to fix it. Let's slow this down and go through the clip. Skies is realizing too late that the indicator is showing an attack coming at him fast, so he fails to block that launch, which guarantees the Nobushi attack. If it's unfeintable, it cannot fool you. And here, Icecat does something actually pretty smart. He tries to parry the Cobra Strike, which will give him a bit of a breather room. This is definitely something that you can do if there's an unfeintable attack coming your way. Issue is he fails the parry. From now on, he is in a very bad spot, but on top of that, he fails to block an attack coming from the Highlander he's locked onto. Celtic Curse is a slow attack, it's pretty safe to block it. If this is something you struggle with personally, or you just want to be extra safe, just lock onto someone else in the situation and you will not have to react to Highlander's attack. There are more things you can do, I will talk about it next episode. Next up we got Crack. This is a pretty quick one. So here Zero parries one Zerker heavy, and he suspects nothing when another one is thrown out. It is difficult to realize the first attack is not locked onto him, but afterwards it should have been obvious that the opponent is target switching. One way to deal with this is to never parry, but another one, more relevant to this video, is to switch target to someone else in a fight and then you can easily tell if the attack is aimed at you. These 2 clips are both to show how useful external guarding is, even on console. This is Xbox and my opponents here are all from Brazil and I'm from Europe, so our connection is absolutely terrible and there is no way I can react to any of them. However, with the use of proper positioning and constantly adjusting my external guard, I was able to take very little damage in situations where a lot of unreactable attacks were being thrown at me. I want you to look at my guard and see how often it is being changed. I keep monitoring the situation, constantly changing whoever I find to be the most threatening and adjusting accordingly. This clip is to show how locking onto someone else due to distance works in real games and is taken from a tournament set. In order to be entirely safe, knowing I'm already decently low on health, I'll lock onto the Orochi, leaving the Kensei with no choice but to back off, letting me join the fight. Okay, so these last 2 clips are of me being somewhat okay at the game for a change. They're both taken from tournament matches against very strong teams, the latter clip being from the finals. As you're watching, notice how in both of them I generally stay away from the main fight and focus on interrupting while being safe. Of course, this won't work the exact same way with every character, but the principle is still the same. You want to be able to defend reliably while still having some sort of offense available to you. In other words, you want to make blocking easy for yourself. Notice how in both of those clips, the fight finishes with me having dealt a lot of damage, staying at almost full health and mid lane in our favor. In the first clip, the fight is more disjointed, with players fighting everywhere in mid, while the second clip shows more close counter combat. Take a look at my guard and how every time a quick character gets close to me, I start blocking in their direction, most of the time without changing targets. I'm usually locked onto someone who I'm looking to punish, and they're often far enough away that I'm in no immediate danger from them, so I can focus on looking at my surroundings and determining biggest threats. There is a lot going on in these teamfights, but try to dissect them one by one and you will be able to see where certain skirmishes end one way or another. Alright, we've done it, we've made it to the end of the video. If you were listening, you've learned all about locking onto less threatening targets, invisible and disappearing indicators, pairing in the original direction of the attack, and the vital importance of positioning. That last one is something I will definitely make a video about in the future, but for now I just hope you realized how important it is and maybe understand some basics of it. After this video, you should be locking onto the raiders and shugokis, not the peacekeepers and orochis. You should have a better understanding of how the indicator system works and be able to use it to your advantage. You should be surviving longer in teamfights and generally understand them better. You should know when to parry and when the attack isn't locked onto you and you should just block or dodge it. In other words, after this episode, you should find yourself more control of the game with better results and understanding. If you don't think you've understood some of the things I talked about, please let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to help you. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Alernakin, so you can come by anytime I'm streaming and ask whatever questions you may have. So that will be it for the first episode, hope you guys enjoyed it. It'd be nice if you did all the YouTubey things like liking and subbing, but what matters the most to me is your feedback, so please leave a comment down below with any kind of opinions, be it positive or negative, that you may have. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time.